24 years. I mean, think about that. It's almost a quarter of a century since a major new theme park opened its gates.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And the buzz around Comcast's Epic Universe, I mean, it's set to open May 22nd. It's just been, well, electric.
It really has. But today, we're going to try and, cut through some of that hype, get a real sense of what might be waiting for visitors.
Oh.
We've got some really interesting on-the-ground observations here. It's from a Motley Fool article published just yesterday, May 9th, 2025.
Right.
And it details some of the, let's say, initial experiences people have had during the preview periods.
Exactly. So for you tuning in, our mission here, our goal is pretty simple. Let's unpack these firsthand accounts. Let's try and understand the potential, maybe bumps in the road Epic Universe might face right from the start. What are the key challenges, being flagged before the big day? Let's just dive right in.
Okay, so first up, the article spends a good bit of time on the Harry Potter and the Ministry of Magic ride.
The big one.
Yeah, it's clearly meant to be a headliner attraction, right?
Yeah.
The kind of thing people will travel miles for.
Sure.
But what's interesting and maybe a bit concerning is how unreliable it's apparently been during these early previews.
Right. The picture painted is, well, it sounds like a ride that's down quite a bit, technical issues, and even when it is running, maybe not at full capacity.
Exactly. And to manage the demand, which is obviously going to be huge, Universal rolled out a virtual line system.
Okay, standard practice these days, sort of.
Sort of. But it sounds like this particular system has become a bit of a sticking point for some of the early visitors.
How so?
Well, what's fascinating here is the approach they took, especially if you compare it to, say, what Disney World used to do with their virtual queues.
Right, I remember those. Generally, it was like one shot per day, right? The
Yeah.
big release of spots.
Pretty much, yeah. Larger pool, released at once. But Universal's model for this Ministry of Magic ride is different. No official limit on how many times you can try to get on, which, in practice could mean a lucky few get multiple rides while others get none. And then instead of one big drop, they have multiple smaller drops daily.
Okay.
Plus, get the surprise, intermittent releases kind of sprinkled throughout the day.
Wow. Okay, so instead of, enjoying the park, it sounds like people are spending a lot of time just refreshing their phones, playing this digital lottery constantly.
That seems to be the feedback, yeah. And the article suggests that even with all that effort, actually getting a spot is, well, far from guaranteed.
Oof. You can see how that would lead to some pretty deflated feelings. You're there for the magic, not the app struggle.
Absolutely. And the frustration isn't just, I might miss out. It kind of taps into this sense of fairness or lack thereof and, control.
Yeah, like you're battling an algorithm, not just waiting in line.
Precisely. It feels like you're spending your valuable park time on your phone instead of, experiencing things. That can breed resentment, right? So this upcoming week-long closure they announced for fixes, it's critical.
Yeah.
Really critical. A smooth reopening for that ride will be a huge signal.
You're right. You can just imagine the headlines if opening day is plagued by the same problems with their, star attraction. That would definitely take some shine off.
No question.
Okay, let's swing gears a bit. Food, another huge part of the theme park experience, right?
Always.
The article does mention that the initial reactions to the actual quality of the food have been generally positive. So that's good.
It is, yeah. That's a definite plus. But those positive notes are now apparently being joined by growing concerns about wait times.
As the preview crowds get bigger.
Seems like it. Longer queues for food are maybe inevitable with bigger crowds, but it's something they'll really need to manage well, to keep people happy.
Makes sense.
And the article also touches on this idea of the Instagrammable menu design.
Right, where everything has to look amazing, perfect for a photo.
Exactly. But the article kind of hints that this strong focus on maybe elaborate, heavily themed food might not work for everyone, especially picky eaters.
Right.
Or kids.
Or adults with simpler tastes. Sometimes you just want something basic.
Totally. And if you connect that to the guest experience, things like limited customization options, the article mentions not being able to tweak mobile orders easily, at least back in late April. That can be a real annoyance.
Yeah, that's a definite pinch point.
It highlights that tension, doesn't it, between creating that wow food moment and just catering to practical needs.
And then there was that example, the breadstick.
Oh, yeah. The $12 breadstick at Dark Universe. That certainly got people talking about the potential price tags.
$12 for a breadstick. Wow. Okay, yeah, that puts pricing into perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
All right, let's move to the digital side, the Epic Universe app. Clearly meant to be your command center for the park, right?
It's supposed to be, yeah.
But the article points out several places where it seems to be causing more headaches than help right now.
And what's interesting is how these different app issues can kind of pile on top of each other.
How do you mean?
Well, that virtual line rewrite thing we talked about, the loophole, and the trouble customizing mobile food orders, both are fundamentally app capability issues.
Right, right.
But there are other usability things too, like apparently you can't see restaurant menus unless you're actually inside the park.
Seriously, so much for planning your lunch ahead of time.
That's a tricky, yeah. And filtering wait times just to see Epic Universe rides sounds like it's surprisingly clunky.
You'd think it would just know which park you're looking at or make it easy.
You would think. And then there's this really, unique tip in the article. It suggests solo visitors might need 2 phones if they want to grab a Ministry of Magic spot and use other app features at the same time.
2 phones. Okay, that really highlights some fundamental design issues, doesn't it?
It kind of paints a picture of an app that isn't quite as smooth or user-friendly as it really needs to be for a park this big.
Definitely not seamless. Okay, shifting from digital to physical, getting around the park. The article brings up stairs, a lot of stairs, particularly in Super Nintendo World.
Yeah, this is a really important point for accessibility for lots of guests.
Sure.
Now, the article does say there are elevators for guests with mobility issues, which is good.
Okay.
But it also raises concerns about potential bottlenecks, like long waits for those elevators once the park gets really crowded.
Right. If everyone needs the elevator at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The article uses the phrase ups and downs, which is a clever play on words, right?
Hey, yeah.
Talking about the physical terrain, but also potentially the guest experience for anyone relying on those lifts.
It really underscores how important it is for those elevators to be efficient, reliable.
Absolutely. You don't want accessibility to become another source of frustration.
Okay, let's talk about something near and dear to Floridians. Heat. The article describes Constellation Park, the main hub area, as lacking enough shade, natural or artificial.
Yeah, and what's really significant here is that these observations were made in April.
Oof, not even peak summer.
Exactly. If it was already feeling pretty hot and exposed then, you could imagine July or August could be genuinely uncomfortable, maybe even rough.
Yeah.
Now, the article kind of jokes about, potential high sales for sunscreen and water.
Hey, right. Silver lining for Comcast.
Maybe. But the more serious worry is just guests feeling overeated, miserable, and deciding to cut their day short.
Nobody wants that. Melting in line is not the peak theme park experience.
Definitely not. And that leads us to another weather point. Rain. Florida's famous afternoon storms.
Oh, yeah, lightning delays.
The article actually recounts the first big weather closure they had April 28th, lightning nearby. Most of the rides shut down for over 2 hours.
2 hours, wow. What stayed open?
Not much. Just 4 out of the 11 main attractions apparently remained operational during that delay.
Only 4.
Yep. And even for those 4, you still needed a virtual line spot.
That raises a pretty basic question, doesn't it? It's Florida. Summer means thunderstorms, almost daily.
Right.
So why weren't more rides designed to be, all weather, or at least better protected?
It does seem like maybe a missed opportunity, to keep more people occupied and minimize those disruptions during predictable weather events.
Okay, finally, let's touch on just the sheer number of rides, capacity, and maybe future plans.
Right.
The article suggests that the current count, 11 rides, might just not be enough, especially for the crowds they're hoping for, even if they fix the reliability issues.
And they give a pretty stark example. The Donkey Kong coaster, Minecart Madness, reported wait times of 4 hours.
Yep.
And that was apparently during a limited early entry period, mainly for resort guests.
4 hours with limited entry. Wow.
Yeah, it really emphasizes the point. There seems to be a need for more rides, especially high-capacity ones that can run no matter the weather.
Keep people moving, spread them out.
Exactly. And the article also points out that the big Harry Potter portal area, right now it basically only leads to that one Ministry of Magic ride.
The one with the tricky virtual line.
Right. Suggesting maybe there's potential there that's not fully utilized yet. It needs more than just one big e-ticket that's hard to get on.
It sounds like maybe there's a noticeable gap, like between the big headliner rides and some of the other offerings, in terms of scale or capacity.
The article uses the term wide gap, which kind of implies a need to maybe beef up the supporting cast of attractions a bit, elevate the whole lineup.
So, okay, putting it all together.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway from the Motley Fool piece?
Well, ultimately, the conclusion seems to be that, look, Epic Universe has huge potential, massive potential, but there are a number of pretty significant challenges that really need sorting out and fast before that official grand opening.
Okay.
The author even kind of throws in this hopeful line about wanting to be epically wrong, about how serious these initial problems are.
Right. Fingers crossed they work out the kinks. And we have to remember the bigger picture here too, right? Comcast's theme park business hasn't been quite as robust as Disney's lately.
That's true. They've seen some weakness compared to Disney's growth. So a really successful, really positive launch for Epic Universe, it's going to be vital for them to shift that narrative.
Yeah, absolutely critical.
Precisely. So while Epic Universe promises all these exciting new things, this deep dive, looking at the Motley Fool article, it really highlights several key areas needing, well, immediate attention.
Let's recap maybe.
Yeah. Ride reliability, number one.
Yep.
Refining that virtual line system. Improving food service speed, options, making the app actually work smoothly for people, fixing park navigation and accessibility issues, dealing with the heat and shade problem, getting better prepared for typical Florida weather,
Right.
and longer term perhaps, just boosting the overall ride capacity, making sure those initial guest experiences are positive is just crucial.
So for you listening, when you consider all these early reports, these potential issues, what does it really tell us about just how incredibly complex launching a massive modern theme park really is?
It's a huge undertaking.
And maybe more importantly, looking ahead, which of these aspects, if they aren't significantly improved in these final weeks, which ones might actually stop Epic Universe from hitting its big goals, from truly living up to all that incredible hype?
Yeah. It definitely gives you something to think about as we count down to that grand opening, doesn't it?